Our lives will be better soon, you'll see, if you'll break some bread with me. When our two worlds collide, it's so easy to take sides. So we're trying to find a better way.
I'm thinking maybe we'll get Damien and Anne up at the same time. What do you think of the aprons? You're one. Hadn't she the cheek? Hadn't she the cheek to get them done? Isn't it class? One for herself. I'm hoping that Sharon and I'll be doing an odd thing together. Now, that project that you worked on, Damien, fascinated me. The sunlit absence. It's from that Anything Can Happen, 1972.
Mm-hmm.
What inspired that? Maybe explain what it is. COVID.
So I'm just for the most of the people in the room who wouldn't know me, I write poems and plays for a living. That's what I do.
You're a community writer.
Well, yeah, alongside that, for about 35 years now, I've worked with people, a range of people, but especially in conflict zones, who want to tell their story but don't think they've got the tools. That's how I got to know Eamon, because obviously that was Eamon's work.
Yeah.
And I've done it all over the world, especially the 10 of the last 13 years in the Middle East with Palestinians and Israelis.
Together in the one room.
Yeah.
And how this was ordinary people like ourselves.
It was people who were just out of the IDF, who had just done their service, so young, in their 20s, and the same number of Palestinians from Gaza and from the West Bank, from Ramallah, most of them. And the thing that brought them together was they convinced us that they wanted to meet the other, because they wouldn't have met them except at checkpoints. And so yeah, but my job was, that sounds great. And the meeting of Hibernians and Orange people, or the meeting of, say, the people in Moygashel who made that horrendous bonfire, and the meeting of, let's say, those things don't happen on their own. The ground needs built. Yes. If you got a crowd of ones just out of the IDF, were they waken every morning and salute the flag, the Star of David, and that's their day begins with that? And you're not going to bring them in because they don't know how to. They're kept apart. But so they don't know how. My job was to help build the ground on which meeting could take place.
And how did it go? What was the outcome?
Well, you see, the thing is, I wasn't worried about it, because I don't want to talk too much. But I wasn't worried about it because we, in the north of Ireland, I had done that for 30 years. So I wasn't afraid of it, because, I am very, very lucky that I had the mother that I had. My mother.
You grew up in Newcastle.
I grew up in Newcastle, County Down. My mother made a difference in nobody. It was not in her to make a difference between people. So we, who were reared by her, we didn't make a difference. So there were people in our town, like any small town, they're strange people. We had a guy called Neptune. We all called him Neptune. I was left Newcastle before I knew his name was Mel Murray. We called him Neptune because Mel took every fucking thing going, and he thought he was Neptune. And when we were growing up, I am Neptune, Lord of the Sea. He was called Neptune. We had another guy, again, I didn't know his name. We called him Buckets. He had the biggest lips I'd ever seen in my life. His name was Vincent. There was a guy, we'll not go into his story, called Mickey Ride the Dog, but that's another. But there's no need to go into that, how Mickey came by his name. But here's what I was going to say to you. You would come home from school, and these people who were over in the margins of the margins, and everybody thought they were objects of derision and fun and talk. My mother would be ironing, and these people would be having a cup of tea. Do you think so, Mrs. Gorman? And they would be talking like human beings, because she treated them like human beings. And then, well, I disagree with that. And Mickey would be talking to buckets, and buckets would be, and she made no difference. It wasn't in her to make a difference.
Yeah.
So I suppose, well, in my work with the project was called the Olive Tree Project. I didn't make it. I made no difference. Like there were, but I did know from working with Catholics and Protestants in the north, there is no ground. Like you might have the best project in the world, and you summon people to your project, and you get funding and all that, but there is no ground until the people decide, I'll bring a wee bit of ground, I'll bring a wee tiny bit of soil in my pocket, because I think there's something in this for me. Yeah. And as I said to you in the break, we started with bread. In a way, we ate together. Before we did anything, as they call it, work together, we ate together. And we did the same thing with the Israelis and the Palestinians. We ate together. And we moved from the circumference in very small steps towards doing other things together,
Damien, one more thing. It's the image that it brought up in me about taking the scenic route through the peace process, or the bringing people together. We were taking the scenic road through it, not actually. Well, not actually getting into the thing. Like, and I'm sure you've experienced as well, Sharon. You have the troubles may be over, but the legacy isn't healed yet. The legacy is not healed yet. There are still young people. I can't believe in this day and age, housing estate being referred to as a low income estate. This is not. This is not human. It's not humanitarian. It's, so the scenic route, like there's been so much money invested in the peace and the different projects and so on, and yet there's still so much to be done.
Yeah, I was just saying that today to Teresa.
Yeah.
The amount of work, and when I think about Eamon Baker, and I know many of you in this room haven't met him, but some of you have.
Yes.
And by the way, can I just pause a minute? I think Eamon would be tremendously proud of you for the John Hume Award, Breezy. And Breezy, you said something before I say what I want to say about Eamon. You said something very important to me about Eamon. And what you said to me was, he was one of the first people to take you seriously. Yeah. To me, that speaks volumes and says a lot about the man that I don't really have to say about who he is and what he stood for. But one of the things that Eamon did stand for was the idea of giving people a voice. Like your own work, Damien. Trying to reach out to people and help them understand each other. And my memory, just to give you a wee example, I suppose, is of the what's called the testimony events that Eamon used to organise at Hollywell in Derry, where he worked. He worked for an organisation.
Yeah. He was a co-founder of the Hollywell Centre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He worked for an organisation called Towards Understanding and Healing. So again, I suppose that the name of the organisation speaks volumes as well. But what he would do is at lunch times, he would organise testimony events. And he would invite people to come along. So you'd imagine just a room with people in a big circle. And he would invite a speaker. Doesn't matter what side of the community, the more varied the better for him. Because he wanted people to come into the room and be heard and have their voice heard. And what he would have done then was he would have set up 2 witnesses to respond to the person when they did speak. And then he would open it up to the main room for everybody else to speak. And Eamon used to invite the audience to listen with the ears of your heart. Listen with the ears of your heart. And he made that kind of plea and set the terms and the boundaries around the event. And you know what? All of those events were unforgettable.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, Damien, if you were at some of them.
Oh, I was at quite a few of them,
yeah.
and one of the things that Eamon and I agreed, one of the many things we agreed on, and in fact we talked about it not long before he passed away, was how there's a great hunger, there's a great desire in quite a few people in the north of Ireland to leave that time behind. In other words, not to hear any more stories. You know, we've heard all that we need to hear, and we've learned anything we are ever going to learn. So let's bury it, let's draw a line, you know. And one thing we agreed on was, in fact, the opposite is the case. That now is the time when there is still a generation of first-hand witness to things that happen, like we heard so vividly there from Sharon. In fact, this is the time to cast the net again and make sure that the mesh is as small as it can be, so that we miss nothing that might potentially be useful. Like Greta and myself were talking about a man, like this is the sort of story you wouldn't hear. A man who is walking about carrying this story with him about how he directed a group of people who were at a loss for a few hours. What will we do for a few hours? We have to be somewhere, but not until such a time. What is there anything you could advise us we might do?
He was the bus driver.
The bus driver. Well, you could go up there and do a bit of shopping. And he directed them up there to do a bit of shopping, and they were wiped out in the Oma bombing. Because you couldn't take this away from him, because I said you could go up there and do a bit of shopping. So there's people carrying stories like that, and I just feel and Eamon I know felt they're entitled to put them down. And they're not entitled to put them down according to some timetable that says your time is up, the time on your story is up, you know. So, you know, there's,
Yeah, it would be unreasonable to put a time limit on stories, on experiences and so on.
Absolutely.
Because people recover at different rates. Their memories can be suppressed and come out after years of. There should be no time limit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could I tell a wee different story?
You can.
About Eamon.
I have to laugh, Sharon. tell before you what you said to Eamon after he met Anne.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
no.
Oh, I go on.
When I was with Eamon in the project, he loved to boast about Anne.
No wonder.
He showed me a photograph of her, and I said to him, Eamon, you're fairly punching above your weight there.
Well, what I need to tell you about Eamon, you see, is that he was a very handsome man. And there's people in this room will vouch for it.
Yes.
Very handsome man. Very tall, grey beard, very handsome. And he also loved the north-east of England. He loved Whitby, the little town of Whitby.
Yeah, you know.
And so we were in Whitby, I think for about the second or third time. Anybody been in Whitby? Yeah? Did you love it too?
Oh yeah, I used to go there as a kid.
There you are.
Yeah.
Great wee place. Oh, big place actually. We just loved it. So anyway, we were out on the Friday night, you see, and we were hearing a bit of music. And then Eamon said on the way home, he said, well, just nip down. He says, have a wee nightcap. So we're having a nightcap outside at a little bar called the Moon and Sixpence. Just on the main, it's just on the waterfront really. So this beautiful night, warm, balmy, just lovely. Stars are out and it's gorgeous. So we're sitting having a wee Jameson. And there's not too much happening, but down the street, these three girls come together, hooked together, teetering on their high heels, and laughing and shouting and what have you. And they walked on past, and then they stopped and they looked round. And the girl, she pointed, she says, Sean Connery!
Oh, he would have loved
Sean, oh, you can imagine how much that was loved. And then they shouted, Mrs. Connery! This is true. This is true. So that was all right. And then the next thing, they said, oh, we're all so excited. My mommy loves Sean Connery, one of them said. And I'm going to phone my mommy. I'm going to phone her. Where was mommy? In America. Mommy was in America. So they phoned mommy. And mommy comes on the phone and then, Sean, speak to mommy. And of course, Eamon puts on the accent and they shaken, not stirred and all that. I don't think he ever mismade himself that he wasn't Sean Connery. So somebody's dining out in America on having talked to Sean Connery. One of the most memorable moments of my life with Eamon, and I was with him for 14 years. We've never forgotten it. And it's the truth. Because I can show you a picture if you like. He was a very handsome man. But I love that little story as a bright kind of memory of
and
my
the devils
time.
were packed into Eamon's sideways. That was
The what? Say that again?
The devils were packed into him sideways.
oh yeah, he would really have enjoyed that.
It was such great crack. So yeah.
But were you going to read something?
I am, and you know, Eamon, we're talking about differences. And by the way, Eamon and I are no strangers to Glenties. Like, we've been here before, stayed with Teresa, and loved being here and Glenties. I think we were at the summer school, maybe the fair day and all the rest of it.
Ah, you were at the Bakebread for Peace.
And we
as
were,
well.
yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Sorry, Breezy,
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
in the Highland.
Yeah.
Eamon always had a thought, about his dad. And his father, people would have referred to his daddy, as a very brainy man. Brains to burn, I think is the expression they would have used. But like many other fathers, including my own probably and my mum, there wasn't the opportunity for an education or the money or and so Eamon was the first one in the house, you see, to go to university. And he carried his father in his heart, He had a great love for him and like all the rest of us, maybe some regrets, some what ifs. If only I'd done, if only I could see more, if only I, had more understanding. So he wrote a couple of poems dedicated to his father. And if it's okay with you, I would like to read them. So this first one, oh, by the way, his father, was a shift worker. So just to say that, he was a hard-working man. At one point, I think, holding down 3 jobs to bring money into the house and so on. So this first poem is called Always. Always, sweat on your strong lined brow. Always, your black bike, tick, tick, ticking. A shy, kindling silence between us. As we trek the tight streets up towards the wide slant of the Bishop's Field. And with your threepence, I will scurry into the twilight dark of the corner shop. And round tree fruit gums will whisper on our tongues as we mount that hill together before the clamour of home. And this poem is entitled Cargo. And in this poem, Eamon's kind of explaining to us, perhaps coming home from the pub late at night, and encountering his dad, who's having a lie down before he goes out in night shift. I edge myself closer towards your prone self, atop the tight quilted marriage bed, human cargo of dreams. Stranded under a H-block grey wrap. I'm in for the night. Shift work demands that you will wake, erect from 12 to 8. I stumble over our hurdles, planting a fearful, soft kiss by the flowers of your shut eyes. Later, red fire baking at my shins, I chide myself. Was I taking or giving? Maybe that question is absurd. Had I been taken, you probably would have stirred, yet in that moment, I was taking, both too close for comfort, and with you dead to the world, too comfortable for closeness.
I actually did a reading with him, not that long before he had the stroke, I think, in the waterside, and he read those. So if it's okay with you, I'll say a couple of poems for him.
Please, Damien.
Which he liked, a couple of mine that he liked, and then I'll do one. I love this phrase, by the way, the devils were beaten into him sideways. So then I'll do a wee short third thing, which is about the devils being beaten into me sideways. So we're talking about embracing differences tonight, and money difference is one difference that maybe we don't think enough about in Ireland, because we have other differences to keep us going. But so he was brought up on an estate, as was I, in a completely different part of the north and south Down, Newcastle County Down. But we bonded a bit over that. There was a lot of things in common. So my situation was, so for a year we lived in a caravan. And then eventually we got a house, and the house is blown up. The house is blown up. We were 1 month into it, and we were glad. The caravan was all right for a while, and then we were wanting to have a house that wasn't on wheels. Even the youngsters wanted that. And then we were in this place a month, and it got blown up, even in the small, gentle, quiet town of Newcastle. But I went to grammar school because I got the 11 plus, and I was the only one of us who went to grammar school. And whenever I see a Venn diagram anywhere in the world, just on the news as a graphic, I get a little trigger. Because in our first week of grammar school, the maths teacher he said, put up your hand if there's more than one car in your house. Okay, maybe 2/3 of the hands went up. Put up your hand if you've got a television in your bedroom. So of course we didn't have a car, we didn't have a television, but you had this Venn diagram, all the people who more than a car, all the people who've got TVs, and then this glorious central bit where you have more than one car and you've got a TV in the bedroom. So I have this thing about Venn diagrams. No offence to Venn diagrams, by the way. Bad cess too. So another thing that happened at that time, my dad had been a fishmonger. He lost everything, and my mother, who cleaned houses, he also had a breakdown then, but we weren't allowed to say that. But we were given this phrase to use. But anyway, my mother went out and cleaned more houses, but when he came back from the hospital, from the breakdown, he wasn't fit to do anything much. And because she was cleaning that many houses, she had to divide the work of the house among us. So this was Eamon's favourite, as you know, favourite poem of mine, which is called The Giant Basket. It's about doing the groceries at the age of 10, 11 and 12. And my mother gave me one Friday's instruction in how to do the groceries for the entire family. And for the next 3 years, my job was to do the groceries and buy the bread. And I negotiated with a baker about batches of loaves that had collapsed and all of that. And, you know, families like ours would buy the whole batch cheaper and so on. So it's about baking bread as well. But very quickly, this is Eamon's favourite poem of mine called The Giant Basket. My father officially wasn't well, if anyone asked. His nerves were bad. And every Friday night I would stand before my mother at the sink. She would wet her comb and somehow find a shade and beads of water lit on her nylon housecoat. And because I had more sense than Jared, I would get the giant basket and the pound to go to Mrs. Bell's and Mr. Fay and see if they've anything put aside today for Mrs. Gorman, and make you sure to say that it's for Mrs. Gorman. Don't be long. It was a brave step up the Shimna Road on a winter's evening, black and cold, but oh, how lovely it was to feel responsible at the age of 10. Oh, how lovely it was to carry the giant basket for your own ones. Slightly damaged peaches, day-old bread and sausage rolls which flaked more than they should were all heaped into my basket, and best of all were bruised eclairs and buns from Mrs. Bell. And I would come home like a little forklift truck, carrying the giant basket out in front. My brothers and sisters whooped and danced about, and my mother made some tea to warm me up. And even my father, sullen in his chair, would be a little brighter with his share, and with a deal of anarchy we'd make a meal of Friday's tea, and no mistake.
Will you break some bread with me? Won't you join our company? Our lives will be better soon, you'll see, if you break some bread.